It's Karen from Divorce Workshop, back with another Divorce Workshop talk. Today we have Anastasia coming on. She's going to talk about the financial pitfalls of divorce, which we know are plenty. And Amazon in a week from now. We're super excited. So we're just, there's Anastasia. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
It's good to see. Yeah, it's good to see you. I'm glad you were safe and everything. I know it's been really rough down in Florida, so yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it was a rough. We had like 3 back-to-back storms. So, but thank goodness I'm safe and my community is safe for the most part. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, and our thoughts are with everybody else down there who's going through all that.
Tampa was hit very hard. Unfortunately, yeah.
Anyways, I am excited to talk to you. This is a big topic. We're going to talk about financial pitfalls, which I know I've been there, and I'm sure you've been there. I mean, we've made mistakes, and that's why we want to talk about this today. But first, before we get into that, do you want to give us a quick bio of yourself?
Yes. So my name is Anastasia Frangakis, and I am the founder of the Seraphim Life Coach. And my passion is empowering professional women as they go through their divorce journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And today's a big topic. So let's get started. So there's a lot of pitfalls. I mean, we could go on all day about them. So let's just talk about the 4 major ones that you see that happen a lot.
So divorce, first of all, is a very emotionally challenging time, and there's a lot of significant financial obligations that come out of that. And understanding the challenges will help women empower themselves. So we're going to talk about a few of them. Just as an aside, Northwestern Mutual, which is a financial company, recently came out with a survey that indicates that women are very uncertain about their financial future. And I found that as a very significant statement because, you know, we're most of us are professionals and we take control of everything, and yet sometimes, not everyone, but when they get married, they leave the finances to the spouse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. That's very, very common. I actually was talking to a CA, a chartered accountant, and he said he did some training not too long ago about teaching young women who are professionals to maintain an interest in the financials. And then 5 years after he did that, he connected with them all again, and they were all married, and they're like, oh no, I'm not that interested in that. So as you said, even today, right? Like, we know marriage, we do our own identities and our own stuff, but it seems to be still pretty common that it's happening.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the underlying cause is, because it is a very important component of your identity, because if you do find yourself at the crossroads of divorce, you're scrambling. So I guess this is a perfect segue. So one of the common pitfalls is a lack of financial knowledge, and that doesn't mean they can't add money together, but it's like they don't know what assets they have, what assets, bank accounts, retirement funds, property. They may not be aware of everything. And then if a business is involved, they may not be aware of those assets as well. So it's very important to, I always say, know the valuation of the assets. And if you don't, then before you file for divorce, if you are in fact the one who's filing, make sure you gather that data, because it may go away. Right?
Yeah. I've heard that before, and I've coached people that way too. So if you are the one filing and you're planning, and in some cases you do have to plan, it'd be, as you said, it's good to try to do a bit of your own investigations.
Yeah. So some of the important documents would be to have your last couple years of tax statements, bank statements with the account numbers and the passwords, and things like that. So that's really important. And then also to seek the advice of a certified divorce financial analyst, which the acronym is commonly known as CDFA, because they are trained in this area, especially in the divorce arena, and they will be able to counsel you very well.
You know, what's interesting is I read some research not too long ago either that a lot of women still don't even use them that as much as they should. That they don't use the CDFAs as much as, there seems to be some reluctance. I had a friend years ago who really needed one, but never, was going through a terrible divorce. And it took a while for me to convince her that I think you really need a financial advisor here or an accountant with all this, because it's a lot going on. So I just, as we're growing as coaches, I also think that certified financial advisors for divorce also need to know that they're necessary for some people as well in this divorce world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because what happens is, during the marriage period, you may have a CPA,
Mm-hmm.
certified accountant, and when you're going to trust, like, who is he going to side with? Who's he going to represent the most,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find your own independent person to represent you
Mm-hmm.
and represent you well,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can go down the trail of a forensic accountant if there's assets that are hidden and things like that. So it's very important. The other thing is to, when you're going through a divorce, it's very emotionally challenging. And what a lot of women are into retail therapy, we'll put it in air quotes, and then they find themselves in a more difficult situation if they have a tendency to overspend. So I caution them to keep that spending in check, because this is not the time that you want to rack up more debt.
Right. Yeah, because you have in some of your points here about the hidden costs that no one really, that kind of can surprise us, right? Like, we already know how much legal fees are, right? And that can get out of control if we're not careful with that. And sometimes it has to, because of who you're divorcing. That can be also a very challenging thing with finances too. But, there's also the hidden costs of if you move and you may need some help with the house. You know what I mean? Or improvements, moving expenses,
super
right?
expensive. Yeah.
And if you're taking, the kids, you do get custody and child support in most cases, not everybody, because that's also another topic. But pets, right? Like when I separated, I had my big boy, my big Bernese Mountain Dog, and my cat, and I was the one that primary caregiver. But there was no, budget for, that wasn't part of child support, right? So I had to think, okay, now I'm on my own taking care of my big boy and my cat, right? So there's just these other little things that you have to think about. So you're right, we got to be mindful of our retail therapy.
Yeah, and also speaking of pets, and then children as well, you're going to have all these extra expenditures. For example, if they want to go to an ice cream party with their friends and you need to give them $5, and if you're on a budget and you have 3 kids, that's $15. Well, that's a quarter of well, we don't know how much gas it is in today's world, but
it's up and down.
it is a little bit of money, and you have to allocate your resources accordingly. And then you have the rent and maybe HOA fees and health insurance,
Cobra,
and then and then I wanted to talk about retirement accounts as well, because you want to be aware of your either spouse has a retirement account. It's subject to Quadro, and it's I forget what it stands for. I have it in my notes here somewhere, but we jumped ahead. It's anyway, it's called a Quadro, and it's just how the retirement is split. So that's another thing that your financial analyst will help you with.
Yeah. That's retirement and pension and investments. That's when it all can get kind of tricky. And I find that it seems to be pretty common that sometimes the woman wants the house. Have you seen that yourself? It's like they want the house and they'll give up on like more of the investments and the pensions and stuff so they can keep the house. And I think what, not that we're professionals in this industry, the financial industry, but I suspect it'd be a good idea to get a whole picture of everything before you sign really fast, on things.
Right, because you want that quick settlement. You want what you had your memories in, and and some people don't. Some people want to move on, but then you have the expenses of, putting a down payment for a house,
Mm-hmm.
and all the associate closing fees and things like that.
Yeah.
So that is a great segue to to have a nest, and hidden
Mm-hmm.
account with
Mm-hmm.
maybe some funds, and go to save approximately 3 to 6 months of living expenses as
Mm-hmm.
your emergency backup. That's
Yeah.
so important.
It's good to do that too. Also, if you're planning and your relationship's a bit high conflict,
Hmm.
um, people don't like to hear this always, but sometimes you have to plan that. You have to kind of put some money aside just in case. So that's also. But yeah, you're right. ER funds are really important,
Yeah. Hmm.
just in case. And so, what are some tips or something? Some like we know the budget is really important, right? But what are some other ideas like that people can who's going through divorce to help
Yeah,
them?
so a good financial plan, which includes a budget, and then also doing an inventory of what your current debt is.
Mm,
What are the principal and interest payments? What are the terms? What's the interest rate? And things like that, so that you can start attacking that debt. And there's two ways to do that. There's the avalanche method, which is just like taking the highest principal interest cards and paying them off, or the snowball method, where you take the lower interest cards and you start in the lower debt and start paying that off. And then when it's paid off, you take, if it's $20, you apply it to the next card. And so you have
mm,
a bigger, an investment. So snowballs, and you can start
hmm.
paying off debt that way.
Yeah, yeah. I also think I want to mention that a lot of things is when it's planned and you can see it on paper and you can figure out that your life can move forward. It will decrease your anxiety about it all,
Yeah.
right?
And there's so much, very inexpensive software that you can
Mm-hmm.
get for your computer, like Quicken or QuickBooks,
Mm-hmm.
that have usually some kind of forecasting abilities,
Mm-hmm.
whether you want to save for a car, save for college for your children, pay off a loan. They have
Mm-hmm.
the amortization schedules in there. So it's a great asset. I encourage women, you can balance your checkbook so easily and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and keep track of your assets, your net worth. It's a great opportunity. They're like, what, $59 for a program? That's nothing. That's money well
Yeah.
spent.
Yeah, because I think we got to remember we talked about at the beginning about assets, but we also have to remember there's debt, right? And depending on what state and province you're in, that matters, right? Because some of them
Mm-hmm.
are community, right? And so that's another thing is sometimes I've heard like, wow, like I didn't know I was going to be in this much debt because you didn't really have your fingers in on what they were actually doing, right?
Right.
So if
If you were a co-signer, or you were on a credit card and you were
mhm,
unaware, or you may have just been holding the card and not realize that you were
mhm,
responsible for the debt.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be very overwhelming for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any other points, any other tips you want to give before we
Let's
wrap
see,
up?
the budget, and then again, to have all your financial paperwork in order, and just the valuation of assets. And you may need to have, professional people do
Mhm.
those valuations for you. And I think that's it.
I just
Yeah.
don't want to mention that documenting, and this is some of the thing that can be very overwhelming, right? Is documenting and getting all the documents that the lawyer or the financial person needs, because it's like something you don't normally do, right? You don't normally, unless you're an accountant or you're in a financial industry, you're not used to having to search your own taxes, your own. So it can feel overwhelming. So what I often say too is just like it's a metaphor I use for a lot of things with divorce is that ant eating the elephant, right? So it's like take a little bit every day, try to get through it. It is an exhausting part of divorce, but it is absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So one of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to get one of those really, really large binders, three
Mm-hmm.
three hole binders, and get the associated sheets
Mm-hmm.
that you can put documents in. And as you start collecting documents, make them in triplicate, right? One for the attorney, one for yourself, and one for your notebook, just so that you can have them, so you know what
Yeah.
you provided to your attorney. And and it could be your mortgage pay, your lien, whatever
Yep.
you have, and all your important documents, they really should be stored in one location. So that's one thing I encourage, and just keep them in the sleeve so that you don't hole punch them and things like that. And then when your attorney, when you go for your initial consultation, say, I have this, that, and the other thing, and you're very
Yeah,
prepared.
and that reduces financial costs as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the more prepared you are, the better. And it's also, staying organized, right?
Yeah,
And that, again, it's not an easy thing to do, but staying organized also decreases that anxiety that's surrounded by the financial aspect, because money is emotional, right? It is an emotional component. So
very emotional.
yeah, but
And that's what
yes.
goes back to the spending, because if it's something that you historically have used as a comfort,
Mhm.
to spend money and, acquire things because they make you feel good, that you need to keep that in check.
Just keep it in check. Be mindful. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that life is over. Just be more mindful about the spending habits, because for most of us, going through a divorce is going to change your lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just two incomes into one, or one income split to two. However the family's organized, it will change.
Definitely.
Know that there is a future, though, right? Like future planning, and you will get your life back. You got to get through this part.
Yeah, I say living victoriously after divorce is an
Mm-hmm.
amazing thing. It's the greatest revenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, yeah. Well, does anyone have any comments or questions? Just put them in the comments. Otherwise, we'll wrap up today's. It was a great discussion today. I think it's an important one, um, for many, especially when they're navigating all this stuff, and it can be so overwhelming. So this is a good topic today.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I encourage our listeners and viewers to throw some ideas that they would like to
Mm-hmm.
learn more information on.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be happy to address them on this forum.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have you on. I don't know if we picked the date for November,
We
but
have not.
we have not. But you'll be back, and I'm sure it'll be another great conversation. And do you have any other? Do you have any? Like I have my book coming out next week. Do you have anything that's coming out that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have a workbook and a devotional coming up on my website. I'm hoping to get it up in the next week or so. So all you have to do is sign up for it, and it'll be distributed electronically to you.
All right, great news. Okay, great info. Thank you, Shelley, and we'll see you soon. And thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
Shelley.
Okay,
Thanks, Karen. Have a beautiful
bye.
day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.